Hey guys, welcome back to the weekly recap.
Oh my gosh.
We're back. This is gonna be our weekly recap over episodes 13 and 14. Jacob, stop! You're ruining this. You're ruining this for me.
Oh
We
man.
have Jacob, our DM. We have Abby, who plays Thea, and we've got Zach, one of our moderators. And this week we're going to be going over episode 13, which is called An End in a Beginning, and episode 14, which I forget the name of it as of right this very second. Oh, Two Rogues Collide. Both those have been up on YouTube for a little bit, and now we're just going to kind of try to move forward, get these back on schedule, and start getting these out every week. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to explain what happens, all the big events in 13 and 14. We're going to go into a few questions from Zach for the whole group, and then a couple more specific questions Zach has for both Abby and I as characters. Alright, so episode 13, An End in a Beginning, probably one of the most dramatic episodes we have as an overall episode. Honestly, if there was any of our old episodes that I could say you guys should go back and watch, it would be 13, because just like there's not really any moment of like boredom in that episode. We start off at the end of the battle with the Baylor, who is a demon general of the Abyss. Shut up, Jacob. And we know that we can't beat the Baylor, so the group is kind of sitting there trying to figure out what we can do. We come down to one or a couple options, which is give him all of our magical items, which obviously none of us want to do. He wanted to make a deal. He wanted to make a deal with me, and I would be pretty much a hitman for him. Or we had a couple other ways using spells to try to get out of it. The spells all failed. We didn't want to get rid of our magical items. So I made a deal with a demon, and Jacob immediately gave me one level as a warlock out of nowhere. I have not used any of those powers. Spoiler. But, yeah. So going on from there, the Baylor, he disappears, and Anzu takes us all back to the college using a teleportation spell, which at the time was pretty much blocked out by the fact that the Baylor is in the room. If anyone was wondering why didn't he just use that before, it wouldn't have worked, don't worry. We get back to the college with Cran. Cran was the one that he had actually captured up on the top of the mountain. He summoned the Baylor, Cran being Anzu's old student. And so basically we had him sitting down kind of like in whatever he's tied up with. I'm pretty sure there was like at one point a pole through his hands, and one point he was being held person.
Rod through his hands.
He was held down though, and the whole group ended up questioning him. It was really intense.
Stepped on his face.
Yep, you stepped on his face. Thea was mad because Meryl in the previous episode had been hit by one of the shards. Also was used as the main source of power. Yeah, sacrifice for this. Meryl was still alive though. She got hit by a shard of this large obelisk, which ends up being part of the Moonweaver's overall power. And yeah, so Cran's just getting kind of like questioned out. We never really figure out why or who he was working for. We just know that he wanted to have the amount of power that Anzu had like the whole time. And long story short, we all torture him a little. We all take our anger out on him, and then Anzu finally at the very end kills him. One of my favorite parts is Anzu calls him a cunt, and that is the last word he hears. We don't know if he's actually dead though, because he didn't actually die. This ring on his finger glowed a little bit, and then he disappeared. So if Jacob's gonna bring him back, you will see him in the future. But as of right now, we assume he's dead as a group. Moving forward from there, we've got Thea, who ends up having a conversation with Meryl, and how she needs to go forward under the Moonweaver and just trust that, pretty much in what Thea has been trusting for years now. And she kind of she also understands that Meryl will most likely become more powerful than Thea or many of the people in this land, because of what we had seen through what just happened in just a couple hours of a battle and the outcome of it. Anzu has a conversation with Richter about how the college now only has like 3 teachers left. I'm pretty sure, Jacob, did we leave those 2 mind flayers to help the college out? So we have 2 mind flayers from previous episodes who end up staying back, and they help the college out. They're gonna hopefully maybe become either teachers or in some way help rebuild. Yeah, or I think the sister was gonna become a student. The college, of course, or the school, of course, is going to be disbanded for a year at the very least, so all the students leave. But before that,
alive.
Yeah, that are alive. There's only a few. There's a small amount that are alive compared to what we had. But yeah, so from there, we have a couple conversations that end up happening. After Thea's conversation, I have a conversation with Annie, who's also a Kinku, about where she's going to end up going next because she doesn't have a home. We come to find out that Meryl invites her to come back and stay with her in Singorn with Abby's or Thea's father, who Thea does not like or get along with very well. They're on a slightly better terms than they were when they first met in this campaign, but it's not much better, realistically.
It's not great.
You're on terms of understanding mutually that you both care for Meryl, and that's about it.
Mutual understanding?
Yeah, mutual understanding that they both care for Meryl. There we go. We find it. So Annie's going to go with Meryl, and then we have another. I say another. We have one of our first conversations that are like conversations within the group that explain all of our backgrounds. It's number 1 for all of us in the group to kind of understand our characters a little better and who we're working with, and number 2 for the audience to understand a little bit of each person's background. We have a couple of those talks going forward as well. We have one more in a few weeks after these 2 episodes. But so I think the last thing that happens in this episode is that's it. We pretty much we talk for a little while. We end up, I think I go down to Western with Zygon, and I make a deal with some dwarves to go dig up a mine that me and Zygon have now become part owners of. And Zygon does a couple little things in the city looking for a dead wizard's tongue, but he is unsuccessful in that. And we end the episode as Thea's father comes to collect Meryl and now Annie, and that is also an intense situation because their confrontations are always a fun thing to watch. We'll talk about that a little bit more.
It's fine.
So
also, we got rid of.
Yes, in episode 14, the very beginning, me and Thea, Animus and Thea had Sinjin, our little pseudo dragon, who we didn't use as much as we thought we would. He was a cool pet. We used him a couple times. We just couldn't keep him in the story. It was a little too hard for us.
So tragic.
To keep bringing him back. So we give him to Meryl and Annie as a present to kind of help keep them safe, or kind of just have them remember us by. And they all head off, and we decide as a group. I was able to get them all to join me as Animus on an adventure north that is only a couple weeks of an adventure to start my first quest of the Aramente. So we head through Western. There's a couple political things happening in Western that we won't catch back up on until the future, but pretty much it gets more of a stricter government versus people type thing. And that is not something that will become important, and it's not too important even in our current campaign yet, but we do know that it's coming because there have been some things happening in our current campaign where we are that have looked back at that. So we will look at that in the future if you are going to go back and watch that episode. We move out from Western with a couple horses, and we go into the middle of the woods. We're heading up toward the north for my Aramente, and we have a little party in the woods. We have a little celebration after our first big story arc and just kind of being able to chill out. We have some drinks, we fall asleep, wake up, we keep moving forward, And as the title is, Two Rogues Collide, Jacobs brings back an old character that he created for a one-shot. It's actually one of our first episodes, one of our first things that's on our YouTube channel. It's it's the rogue one-shot that I did. And Jake created a character who ends up living through it, and he brought him into our campaign. So Braun, him and this character are both Tabaxi rogues, and they both are in different sides of really enjoying power.
Say his name, Caleb. Say his name. What's his name?
His name's Traxar.
Traxar!
So Traxar and Braun kind of have this little tiff. They end up having a duel, and there's also... Is there a Kinku with him?
Yeah, there's a Kinku with Traxar, yeah.
What was his class?
Don't know. He didn't do anything.
So there's a Kinku. He's a spell. We know he uses spells, so he's some sort of a spellcaster.
Like dimension jars.
Yeah, some sort of spellcaster. Not sure yet, but yeah, they have a duel. It's a very important duel. We'll talk to Michael a little bit about that later when he's on, because it's one of his biggest parts. Him and Braun both have a big part in like swords, and we find out that this Tabaxi named Traxar had killed one of the most powerful sword makers in like the whole continent, and so yeah, I mean that's their whole duel, that's their whole feud. He ends up losing, but they get away, and we move forward a little bit, and we encounter some gnolls, and that's the end of that episode. So Zach, stop laughing, it's distracting me.
Sorry, I'm reading chat.
God damn it.
Yeah, Michael put Traxar and then musical
Michael,
notes.
stop this.
He's showing respect to his rival.
Oh man. Alright, yeah, so that's the biggest thing. Episode 14 really just creates this rivalry and brings more dimension into Braun's entire character. We kind of find out a little bit more about his background on his hunt for powerful swords. He doesn't gain a sword in that episode, but he sees a sword that is created by like one of the most powerful swordsmen that Traxar killed, and they fight each other. Yep, okay, that's it. And then Traxar loses, and they're gone, and that's the end of episode 14. Sorry for repeating that. All right, Zach, let's go ahead and jump into this.
Right into questions. All right.
Traxar's just thrown him off, Abby. It's just he can't handle when Traxar shows up.
Stop it. So Zach, starting at let's start in episode 13. What would your first question be? Even if you don't have one prepared, like, is there one that you can think of for episode 13 to just kind of start off with to discuss as a group, maybe?
So yes and no. Most of my questions are usually kind of how you guys would approach whatever situation. So, example, great question. What for Jacob? What goes into writing letters to and from characters, like in episode 13? Because there was like 3 or 4 of you guys.
Yeah, I skipped over that a little bit. But basically, we had a couple letters that one was from Vesper from Whitestone to Anzu. They had a little thing, and then I think I wrote one to my headmaster, which is Keyleth, of the Arashari.
Didn't Zygon receive one?
Zygon received a mystery letter from Vesper. The others do not know what was in it.
And yeah.
And then I think Zygon sent one to Dwayne too.
To Daryl,
if I remember correctly.
To
Daryl, not Dwayne. I don't know why I said Dwayne.
Daryl.
I watched a Rock movie today, so I'm like, Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Oh man.
Why did he stop going by the Rock?
Stop.
That's beside the point.
We're not talking about that. All right, so Jacob, you're up.
Yeah. So like, during the campaign, Hunter is always saying, like, can I write a letter to Vesper? Can I write a letter? And I'm like, okay, fine. If you do that, you're going to get a response, but it's going to take a while. So he finally got a response. But I like I like writing letters from NPCs that they haven't seen in a while because it allows for the audience and for the players to remember that NPC and kind of just like they're still there. The world is still moving when they're not in the action of the place.
So for a follow-up, do you actually take time to like write out the letters?
Heck yeah! When we were playing tabletop, they had to read my terrible handwriting.
I have a lot. Of
It was so bad.
Yeah, it's still so bad, Abby. It's not like I took like classes. It is terrible.
And you wrote everything in the like lightest pencil. You know, like whenever a pencil gets like really light, and then like
that's
like,
so I wrote it
a little
in
bit
cursive to make it seem more lettery. But like, yeah, it's not amazing. My cursive is better than my print though. So
Dude,
Wow.
I'm the same way. I'm the exact same
Yeah.
way.
That's insane.
yeah,
my print's
but
way better than my cursive, but
now thanks to Zoom and doing this online, I can just type it and then I can change it to whatever fancy font I want, and then they have to read fancy font.
You should start
Honestly, I
sending
think
it
you should,
in the
even
mail.
if we ever went back, like you should definitely keep doing.
yeah.
Abby, no, I'll do what I want. I think it's better if you guys can't read it because it's more authentic.
LOL. All right.
What
Zach.
what I might do, what would be kind of cool, is if I could have some of our Twitch subscribers, I could email them what I want them to write, and then they could mail it back to me,
That'd be cool.
and then it would be in different people's handwritings.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
That would be
We
awesome.
can think about that going forward. Getting, as I was talking about over the break, we are going to try to get you guys a little bit more involved. So, all right. So Zach going.
And merch.
All right. So Zach going. Moving
Just
forward.
glossing over that.
I'm not going to gloss over it. We will have merch eventually. We just don't have the funds yet. All right. So Zach going forward. Zach, what would your next question be? Do you have another one for the group?
Let's see. Here.
We can
Sorry,
move
looking at
into
notes.
character questions.
I got a couple more for Jacob.
All right.
Hit me.
All right, so some episodes are kind of story heavy, others are kind of battle heavy. How do you find like that perfect balance?
Oh, it's hard. That's a good question. So one big hindrance that we have being on Zoom and everything, or not Zoom, on Discord and everything, guys, it's been a really long day. I apologize. But it's hard to do like roll this because then it has to go through this, then they have to roll it, then they have to tell me again. Whereas if we're on a table, I can see what they roll. And it also makes it easier for people not to cheat, even though I never suspect any of you, maybe Hunter, of cheating.
Ooh.
But
Called
Yeah.
out.
but yeah, like and there will be I'm planning on adding a little bit more of a how to say dynamic to the talkie episodes. So we'll see.
Cool. We'll go to Abby for this one.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I want to decide which way I want to ask these.
You're saying
Okay,
how you
so-
want to do this?
Yeah.
Stop it.
So Thea seems to be kind of more outspoken about her distrust in Animus and Zygon. What kind of fuels that distrust?
Keep having these conversations, man.
Well, I mean, it's just extremely sketchy to separate from the group and start speaking in Abyssal. Not even trying to hide it. And I mean, I watched Animus like make a deal with Baylor, and like I'm as Thea like learning Abyssal because I don't trust them. So I mean, like I'm picking up pieces here and there, like trying to like figure things out, and it's just like whenever they like separate themselves like that, it's just really hard to like trust.
I would like to point out that I, as Animus, was openly terrified of the fact that I made that deal. It was very clear through all the actions that happened throughout that scene that, number one, I went through a screaming fit. Number two, I was very open with you guys about the fact that I was like, hey, I don't like this. I'm now with a deal with a demon, and I'm trying to get out of it. And I haven't used any of the powers he gave me at all since then.
Yeah.
I'm just glad
And
you
I
guys
mean-
are talking about this because I kind of forgot. Now I remembered some plans I had. So
Hey,
Oh.
you're welcome.
That's not all right. I mean, it's less of Animus and it's more Zygon. Like Zygon really just gets on her. Like, not. I mean, and sometimes I worry I'm like being like genuinely mean to Brady because like I don't want to be. Like, I think Zygon's a genuinely interesting character, and I'm like loving like all the stuff we're finding out about him. No spoilers or anything, but like, it's just like Thea being like the only girl in the party, and like all of these people like we've made like who have made just almost zero effort to like get to know each other, and then all of a sudden like all this shady shit's happening. It's really hard to like trust, and like as a player it can be like a little frustrating because I'm like, why is she with them? Like she's gonna get fed up eventually if like there's nothing to bond them or like nothing to like where like why are they all together, you know? And so
I mean,
she's just kind of getting frustrated.
One thing on Zygon also I'm not try not to spoil this because this is something you guys will learn in the future. In a more current episode we had another group conversation because we needed to figure out kind of like going forward where we would all be and like how we're actually working together. And one of the things that I came in on as Animus was like he doesn't have a memory. He does not remember things from before he made the deal. So he doesn't know why he made the deal with the demon. He doesn't know why he's a warlock. He doesn't know his like past very well. And so me jumping in to defend him on that, I think a lot of the people in the group kind of had a point which no one's had up until the current point we're in right now of our campaign, not the episodes you guys are on. Of like kind of realizing like maybe we can trust him more than we thought, but at the same time Jacob's throwing a lot of curveballs on my character, making me seem like I'm a fucking dangerous being. So we'll see. No spoilers. We'll talk about that later. So
I love when Caleb gets like visibly startled or upset by something I do.
It's interesting. It really
me.
is. You've done a lot with my character in the past few months of the campaign. Starting with this Baylor episode. This is for you guys watching. Yeah. This is like the start of where Jacob turns my whole character around. So
yeah, to that point, Caleb was the only person that when we initially started. This is before Michael joined. That had played before, so I was like, okay, Caleb, I need a backstory. He wrote like pages of backstory.
I did.
And I was like, this is really interesting. I'm going to ruin this entirely. Because like as much as I enjoy players creating their own backstory, I want some input, and it was pretty airtight. But he left some little crevices that I could crawl into and just like rip it apart from the inside. So yeah.
Yep.
Awkward silence.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Next question for Abby. In episode 13, when Animus took the deal with the demon, kind of saved Thea's life, potentially there.
100%. 100% did.
So, you know, with you kind of not really liking Animus all that much, does that kind of change the way you kind of think about Animus at all?
I mean, honestly, I've never not liked Animus. Like Thea has never not liked him, and honestly, I feel like out of like all the people besides Anzu, like she's probably closest to Animus because like he's the only one like who seems to open up to her about anything. And so like it's not like I hated him. It was just more like a lot of frustration that like the one other person in the party that she felt like she could trust, except maybe like, I mean, like she trusts Braun, but he's not like an open book. Like here, I'm going to talk all about myself. You know, she watches him and learns roguey things, and that's about it. It was just kind of like, it's just frustrating to see him like in cahoots with the one person in the party that she just is like so like just feels so eerie and like weird about. And then I guess that's the only way I can put it, really. So it's never been like about like not liking him, but it's just
I feel like
constantly getting mixed messages, I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, the
About where he's-
overall of my backstory and what Jacob has built it into even more than what it was before. Like, it was already, like, a darker backstory that, like, was harder even for me to kind of, like, try to play in, like, how do I get a group of people to trust me with what my backstory is. And now Jacob playing in even more stuff, it's going to be harder going forward when stuff does get revealed, because it will eventually. Even with stuff, I mean, I can't say much because we're not up to those episodes now. But like, I mean, with the stuff that happens with my single episode that comes in a couple episodes, which you guys will see next week. We'll talk about that next week. But the Aramente thing, like, Jacob threw a bunch of stuff in there that makes me a lot closer to what Zygon is than I thought I was. So
yeah, for people that think that I let the players kind of plan out what they're doing, it's maybe like 20%.
Jacob will let certain things be added to the game for flavor. If there's not a reason for it to be added to the game, he's writing the story himself. We then make our own decisions in a world that he's created. So, I mean, there is nothing that we're doing to write our own story. We are just choosing the paths that we have in front of us, which currently makes me a warlock without warlock powers. So.
Oh, you have warlock powers. You're just choosing not to use them.
I know that. I know that.
Well, I'm just rolling with it at this point. I'm just like, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, I mean, Tabitha hasn't come back into it. That was also, so one of the deals I had with, or the deal I had with Demon is that I have to go and hunt down these people for him. It's pretty much kill them because he has no power or ability to kill them himself, and I haven't figured. Animus is trying to figure out why he doesn't have that power, because he's a demon of the abyss. Why wouldn't he have the power to do that? And the first name that is named Tabitha Fredericks, which we have met by this point in the campaign. Nothing's happened yet, don't worry. But Jacob will be playing that in soon. But yeah, I mean,
I would say next week. I would say this week for stream it'll come up.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Fuck.
So
fuck.
brace yourself.
All right. Well, moving on from that. Thanks, Jacob.
Yep. Always, bud.
Zach, go ahead with your next conversation.
All right, so this one's for you, Caleb.
All right.
So we met that other Kinku in episode 14 during the fight, and then Animus kind of mentions after the fact that there aren't many Kinku left on the material plane. Could you give a little bit of a little history lesson on kind of the Kinku and kind of the different planes?
Yeah, so I may have mentioned this before in a weekly recap before, a little bit with my backstory. So basically a Kinku is a raven person or crow person, however you want to say it, who used to have wings on their back, and they used to be, they pretty much, they wanted to overrun with a bunch of power from this god, and this is how the legend goes. And the god took away, it cursed them in multiple ways because they tried to get this power. And so one of those curses was they lost their wings, they lost their right and ability to speak freely, so they don't have a voice, they can only mock other people's voices, kind of like a parrot. And they also do not have the ability to have their own thoughts. So like pretty much they can have simple thoughts, but they cannot be original or over detailed. And one of those things, the fact that they have that makes them a big part in D&D as minions and creatures that carry out things for other people. So I created my character as a Kinku who is a slave in the Shadowfell, and I'm part of a large flock of slaves of Kinku, as well as large groups of other races of people and other humanoids in Shadowfell. So there's also elves there. There's dwarves there. There's a part of every other race there that are enslaved by this warlock. And so my kind were all taken there, pretty much. Like all of the Kinku, there already weren't many of them in the realm, and they were all taken there. There's not many left in that continent, and you don't see them very often. And we only see 3 throughout this whole campaign so far, and you've seen all 3 of them in these couple episodes. You see one Kinku that we fight, or not fight, but that is at the side of Traxar. You've got Annie, who's a child Kinku, who I still don't know how she got to this realm, but and then me. So yeah, basically Kinku, they're very easily enslaved because their whole goal is either to carry out what someone tells them to do, what their masters tell them to do, or to be able to fly. So some of them will break off from the other Kinkus in order to fulfill their ultimate goal and able to fly. My Kinku, the reason that I am able to speak to people and also I have my own voice is because I was cursed with having a stolen voice from an old dwarf, or an old elf. That was one of the things the warlock gave to me because he saw something in me that he didn't see in anyone else and any other slaves. He also gave me an ability to actually have my own thoughts. With that, though, I was cursed with the screeching that I have, which is pretty much if I get overwhelmed with too much of something, or I get connected to the Shadowfell in some way, I will go through like these panic attacks that have my character go into like a screeching fit, which you see when I make a deal with the Baylor. I go into a screeching fit because of that. So, oh, one thing also, I don't think I've ever said this because I have kind of held off on it. It's a small thing, but Animus, the name, means screeching soul. I've not said that in campaign.
If he wasn't an edgelord enough.
I have never brought that up in campaign. That is for you guys to hear now. I've wanted to bring it up before, but I never really thought of a way for my characters to be like, oh yeah, by the way, this is what my name means. Basically, Kinku are named after the noises they make. So you will hear Kinku named like if a Kinku's making like a hammer noise, they're named like bang, or like they're named by noises. So my name is Screeching Soul because all you can hear is the screeching of other people's souls, because that's what I mimicked as a child. So Animus in turn is that's where that comes from. So
I'm the one making his backstory dark. I'm the one making it okay.
What?
Oh man,
what are you talking about?
Yeah, I do remember seeing that on your character sheet back when we played in person.
Yeah,
I miss
Back
playing
in
in
good
person
old days.
so bad.
I miss it so
Oh,
much.
man.
We used to get up at 7 a.m. to play.
Oh
D&D.
my god, we'll talk about that later. We'll tell them the story
That's like
someday.
when the recaps are caught up, we can probably do a behind the scenes episode where we
Yes.
just talk about
We will
all of
do-
the stuff that goes on.
Yeah, we will do
Right,
that.
those were wild. I remember one session at like 7 a.m. I drank a whole bottle of champagne and
We
making
used
mimosas.
to do that, yeah. We used to drink a good amount of stuff in the morning with each other. That was
We
fun.
would also play for like 5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'd go to work after. It'd be great.
Yeah.
All right, Zach. What else do you have for us?
That's all I have.
All right. Well, I have 2 discussions to bring up real quick. The first one.
Also, feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I know that we've got some people in there, and they're probably curious.
One question: how do you know what that name means? I looked it up. I did backstory on my character. That is how I figured
Isn't that
out.
Latin?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it comes from a Latin, like some sort of Latin abbreviation or something like that. But all right, let me go into this conversation. Then we will have questions from the audience. Abby, what is your thoughts on like it's kind of like the end of what you had with Meryl? Not like the end of your guys' relationship, but like the end of this time seeing her. You won't see her for a while. What was kind of going through Thea's head, and the fact that she got hit by this like shard. We honestly, most of us thought she would have to die. Like even Lochnar and Zygon were really willing to kill Meryl in that situation because it would have stopped that fight. It would have stopped the.
To be fair, Lochnar doesn't need much motivation to kill chldren. He's kind of seems down with it.
Yeah, so that
Really
He's basically Anakin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, what were your
Be a little
thoughts?
smarter.
And then also, of course, with the Moonbeaver and
was-
stuff. So
Yeah, that was a tad stressful for me, because I was like, I do not know how to leave this in the most favorable way possible and not kill my sister. And I think like It was very scary just because, like, Thea's entire backstory is based on the women in her life dying, which is, I don't know what that means or why I made it that way, but it's what happened. And I think she was just very scared of losing, like, another person. And I think there was also, like, a hint of, like once she realized, like, she was fine, but she was, like, blessed by the Boon Weaver or whatever, and she figured out, like, oh, she's probably, like, even more special than, like, I was supposed to be, like, probably, like, a hint of, like, jealousy a little bit, and it's, like, weird to be jealous of an 8-year-old, but, like, there's definitely, like, a tiny part of her that was just, like, I thought I was special.
Yeah.
Why can't I have, like, this one little thing? And, like, she already gets, like, all of her dad's, like, love and attention that Thea never got. And so I think she was a little, like, a tiny part of her was a little jealous that, like, the one person that, like, you know, saved her from, like, the darker parts of her life, like, you know, the goddess that she, like, dedicates her life to, in whatever way, like, chose her sister in a more special way. But, like, she's kind of, like, trusting that maybe there's a reason for that, and you know, she's meant for, like, a different purpose that Meryl isn't.
Yeah.
Or something, you know.
I mean,
Jacob, why me?
DM agrees.
I think that's what this is all about. That's one of the best parts about playing D&D. Like, for you guys, like, watching this, it's like, if you've never played D&D, and we've gone over this, I'm not going to get into depth about it. If you've played D&D before for a long period of time with a group of people that you're close with, you will get into a character so much that they become, like, part of you. You pretty much have created the second life that most of you guys watching probably don't even know me as Caleb. You probably only know me by Animus. Like, realistically, you probably don't know, like, what I do in my real life. You know that I play D&D on here and I run the channel and everything, but at the same time I'm sitting here playing Animus, and that's what you see all day. That's what you see every time you come to watch us. Yeah. So if you
that's how it was for me, like, meeting you guys, like, at the wedding, at Caleb's wedding. It was weird.
Yeah.
It was weird, like, putting that together.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if you could,
man. It was so funny. Side note. So when we were at Caleb's wedding, we got to meet his parents, and his mom called us the Dragon People,
oh
and
my
that
God.
that was the first
Oh my
moment that I
God.
thought we might actually be celebrities. It's just not big enough yet for us to be right celebrities.
We're some sort of
We're
celebrity.
celebrities to Caleb's mom.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. I seriously, we're gonna get that on a shirt. We are going to do
The
that.
Dragon People.
It's
Oh,
so
man.
funny.
All right, so let's
Nah.
jump back into this. Is there?
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just about being, like, super invested in, like, my character. I think, like, at the end of episode 13, whenever I, like, had that talk with her father, when he was, like, coming to pick Meryl up, Jacob was so cold to me. I almost cried.
I
Like,
remember
straight
that.
up.
I remember that. Like,
I was really upset.
I just want to say, I think all of our acting ability is getting better. Like,
I
think we're all getting better at acting out our
Definitely.
characters.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys remember it much, but in episode 13, I'm telling you guys, episode 13, so dramatic. When we came back from that thing,
As the kids say, it slaps.
stop it.
I hate
When we
I hate
came back from that battle with the Baylor, and we're all sitting there around Cran, I legitimately had anger in myself, and you can see that play out in the episode. I go up and literally torture this guy and heal him just to torture him again. Like, man, it's just it was
I
intense.
wanted to crush his face with my foot, but then I was like, Anzu should get the last, you know, thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was very intense towards the end for me. I was on the verge of tears.
It was
Yeah.
an intense episode. Definitely one of my favorites,
And, like,
to remember playing through. So
like, from my perspective, because I have to play every character that isn't them, it's interesting to see what NPCs have kind of started to grow as characters in my mind. So, like, when Thea, like, if word gets to Singorn about what Thea's doing with like the Flagon Slayers, her dad's gonna find out, and I just have to like, I actually, when they founded the guild, I had a thought as her father, and I was like, this is super interesting. And then like, it's just really cool. I like playing Richter, Anzu's son,
adopted son,
he's a
who's
fun
also
character.
a dragon. So
yeah. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think as we go, I'm starting to just like think more in this game world about how characters react. It's super cool because this is the longest campaign I've ever been a part of.
it's a lot
So
of
it's just
fun.
interesting
It's a lot of fun. We'll
to
have
see how D&D develops.
yeah. So coming up to the end of this episode, we will talk more with Michael about Braun's interaction when he's back on the show, just to catch up with him. But moving forward, just for everyone watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitch right now, we are going to go into 3 of our episodes per weekly recap going forward, so we can catch up to the end, or where we are right now, and then we are going to cut this campaign and then restart it the next week, so there's not going to be any jump. We're going to just kind of we're going to have a week for us to revamp everything, make it look a little bit better, hopefully work on some of the issues we've had up until now, and then keep going forward. And with all the support that we've had, we're hoping to continue to gain some momentum, and get more people watching us, and have more people just kind of be enjoying the story that we're putting out with this. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be back again next week with another weekly recap, and we'll also be back this Sunday with another episode. So you're good. See you guys next week.
Adios.
Yeah.